The text message from Aunt Diana lit up my phone screen like a slap in the face. The Morton family reunion is this Saturday at the Imperial Grand. Don't bother coming. No failures allowed. I sat in my private office on the top floor of the Imperial Grand Hotel, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city I'd conquered, and laughed. 5 years ago that message would have cut deep. Now it was just amusing. My phone buzzed again. We have standards to maintain. The Imperial Grand is the most exclusive hotel in the city. We can't have you embarrassing us again. I glanced at the massive oil painting hanging on my wall, the one showing 3 generations of the Wilson family, the hotel's previous owners, shaking hands with me after I bought their legendary hospitality empire for $300 million. Gish. But Aunt Diana didn't know that. None of them did. To my family I was still Sophia Morton, the great disappointment. The one who dropped out of law school to waste time in the hospitality industry. The failure who chose to work as a hotel maid instead of joining the family's prestigious law firm. They never knew that while cleaning rooms I was learning every aspect of hotel operations. They didn't know that my worthless job as a concierge taught me what luxury travelers really wanted. And they certainly didn't know that my time as a restaurant server helped me revolutionize high-end hotel dining. Another message popped up, this time from my cousin Victoria. Mom's right, Sophia. This is an important family gathering. We can't have you showing up in your work uniform again. My work uniform, these days, was custom-tailored Armani, but they wouldn't know that either. They still pictured me in the housekeeping uniform I'd worn 10 years ago, when I first started learning the hotel business from the ground up. Ms. Morton. My assistant Michael's voice came through the intercom. The quarterly revenue reports are ready for your review. And the Wilson family sent over the final ownership transfer documents for their Singapore properties. Thank you, Michael. And what about the family reunion booking for Saturday? Everything is arranged as requested. The Morton party has reserved our grand ballroom. They asked for our most expensive champagne package. Should I add it to their bill? I smiled, remembering how Aunt Diana had bragged on Facebook about hosting the reunion at the city's most exclusive venue. No, let them think it's complimentary. For now. I turned back to my phone where the family group chat was still buzzing with discussions about the reunion. My mother had joined in. Please understand, Sophia. Your aunt is just trying to maintain our family's reputation. The Imperial Grand is very selective about their clientele. As we were. But not in the way they thought. I opened my laptop and pulled up the guest profiles my staff had created for the Morton family reunion. Aunt Diana Morton attempted to use expired credit cards at 3 different luxury hotels last year. Cousin Victoria Morton complained about every hotel she'd ever stayed at, always demanding free upgrades. Uncle George Morton, known for sexually harassing female hotel staff. The entire family had been quietly blacklisted by most high-end hotels in the city. The only reason they got a reservation at the Imperial Grand was because I owned it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my younger sister Lily, the only family member who knew the truth. Oh me, Sophia, are you really going to let them go through with this? They're being horrible. I typed back, don't worry. I have a plan. Lily was the exception to the family's collective delusion. She'd seen me work my way up from cleaning rooms to owning them. She'd been there when I took out my first business loan, when I bought my first small hotel, when I started building my empire. Just promise me you'll record their faces when they find out, she messaged. Already arranged, I replied. Every security camera in the building will be recording. I leaned back in my chair, remembering the day 5 years ago when Aunt Diana had thrown me out of her house for embarrassing the family at her daughter's wedding. My crime? Telling the truth about Victoria's new husband and his history of investment fraud. 6 months later, when Victoria's husband was arrested for running a Ponzi scheme, no one apologized. They just pretended it never happened, like they pretended I didn't exist unless they needed someone to mock. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. Come in. James Chin, my head of security, entered with a tablet in hand. Ms. Morton, I've reviewed the security protocols for Saturday's event. Are you sure you want to wait until they're all inside before? Yes. I cut him off with a smile. Let them get comfortable first. Let them order the expensive champagne. Let them brag to their friends about being at the Imperial Grand. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. James had been with me since my first hotel back when I was still learning the business. He'd seen how hard I'd worked, how much I'd sacrificed. And their room reservations? He asked. Cancel them. All of them. The moment they try to check in, I want them to learn that their rooms are suddenly unavailable. Even your parents? I thought about my father's dismissive words when I told him I was leaving law school. No daughter of mine will be a servant. If you walk away from law, you walk away from this family. Especially my parents. James made a note on his tablet. And the ballroom setup? Remove everything except one table. One chair. Leave the chandeliers dark except for a single spotlight on that chair. Psychological warfare, he grinned. I like it. After James left, I walked to the window, looking down at the city that had watched me rise from maid to magnate. The Imperial Grand stood as a testament to everything I'd achieved, not through family connections or inherited privilege, but through hard work and determination. My phone buzzed one more time. Aunt Diana again. We've hired professional photographers. Try to understand, we can't have someone like you ruining the photos. The Imperial Grand has standards. I smirked, running my finger along the nameplate on my desk. Sophia Morton, CEO and owner, Imperial Hospitality Group. Oh, Aunt Diana, I murmured. You have no idea what our standards really are. I spent the rest of the week reviewing every detail of my plan. The security cameras were adjusted to capture every possible angle. The staff was briefed. Those who had suffered from my family's entitled behavior over the years were particularly enthusiastic about what was coming. Friday night, I called Lily. Are you ready for tomorrow? Born ready, she laughed. I've got my video camera charged and everything. But Sophia, are you sure about this? I mean, they're still family. I thought about all the family gatherings I'd been excluded from. All the times they'd mocked my career choices. All the years of being treated like a servant rather than a daughter. They stopped being family the day they decided I was beneath them, I replied. Tomorrow they learn exactly how wrong they were. That night I stood in my penthouse suite at the top of the Imperial Grand, laying out my outfit for the next day. Not the Armani suits I usually wore, but something specific. The very same housekeeping uniform I'd worn 10 years ago, carefully preserved as a reminder of where I'd started. Sometimes the best revenge doesn't need words. Sometimes it just needs the perfect costume for the perfect moment. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of perfect weather that money couldn't buy. I watched from my office as the first of my family members pulled up to the Imperial Grand in their leased luxury cars, trying so hard to look like they belonged. They're starting to arrive, James reported through the intercom. Your aunt just tried to demand an early check-in. When we told her the rooms weren't available, she asked to speak to the owner. I smiled, adjusting my old housekeeping uniform. And what did you tell her? That the owner would definitely be making an appearance today. I glanced at the security feeds showing the hotel lobby. Aunt Diana was holding court near the marble fountain, gesturing dramatically as she complained about the room situation. Victoria stood beside her, tapping away on her phone, probably writing another scathing review. My parents had just walked in, my father in his expensive suit, my mother dripping with borrowed jewelry. The ballroom is ready, James continued. One table, one chair, spotlight positioned as requested. And the documentation. I patted the thick folder on my desk. All here. Every insulting text, every mocking email, every social media post where they bragged about excluding me. Plus the hotel's guest records showing their history of entitled behavior. And, of course, the ownership documents. Your sister Lily just arrived too. She's in position with her camera. Perfect. I picked up my phone and sent a message to the family group chat. Hope you all enjoy your time at the Imperial Grand. The service here is excellent. The responses were immediate and cruel. Aunt Diana, how would you know? They'd never let someone like you through the door. Victoria, stop being pathetic. You clean rooms at the Holiday Inn. Mom, Sophia, please don't make a scene. We're trying to have a nice family gathering. I watched on the security feed as they read my message, laughing among themselves at my expense one last time. Start phase 1, I instructed James. Within minutes, the front desk began informing arriving family members that their room reservations had been cancelled. No, there weren't any other rooms available. No, they couldn't speak to a manager. No, their status as prestigious guests didn't matter. The chaos was glorious to watch. Aunt Diana's face turned purple as she demanded to know why her confirmed reservation was gone. Victoria burst into tears when she learned she wouldn't have a suite to change in before the reunion. My father tried throwing around legal threats, only to be politely informed that the Imperial Grand had excellent lawyers. Phase 2, I commanded, watching the drama unfold. The staff began herding my increasingly agitated family members toward the grand ballroom. As the double doors opened, their excited chatter died. Instead of the lavish setup they'd expected, instead of the round tables dressed in silk, the crystal centerpieces, the champagne fountains, they found a dark room with a single spotlight illuminating one chair. "There must be some mistake," I heard my mother say, her voice shrill with embarrassment. "No mistake, Mrs. Morton," James replied smoothly. "Please, everyone take turns standing in the spotlight. The owner insists. This is outrageous." Aunt Diana screeched. "Do you know who we are? I demand to speak to the owner immediately." "Your wish is granted," I said, stepping into the ballroom. The silence was deafening. 40 pairs of eyes turned to stare at me, standing there in my old housekeeping uniform, holding my folder of documents. "Sophia." My father's voice cracked. "What are you doing here? And why are you dressed like that?" "Like what, Dad? Like a failure? Like someone beneath you?" I walked slowly toward the spotlight. "Like someone who doesn't deserve to be part of this family?" "If this is some kind of joke," Aunt Diana started, but I cut her off. "Oh, it's not a joke. Though I have to admit, watching you all throw tantrums about your cancelled reservations was pretty amusing." Understanding began to dawn on their faces as I continued walking, my voice carrying in the perfect acoustics of my ballroom. "You see, Aunt Diana, the Imperial Grand does have very high standards. We don't tolerate guests who abuse our staff. We don't accept expired credit cards. And we certainly don't cater to people who think money equals class." "What are you talking about?" Victoria demanded. "You're just a maid." I reached the spotlight and turned to face my family. "Actually, I'm the owner of the Imperial Grand and the entire Imperial Hospitality Group. All 15 luxury hotels across 3 continents." The folder opened with a satisfying thwack in the silence. "Let's review some history, shall we? Here's you, Aunt Diana, calling me a failure for dropping out of law school. Here's you, Victoria, mocking my servant's job on Facebook. Here's you, Dad, telling me I wasn't your daughter anymore because I chose hospitality over law." I pulled out the ownership documents, letting them see the numbers, the acquisitions, the empire I'd built while they were busy looking down on me. That's impossible," my mother whispered. "What's impossible, Mom? That your failure daughter now owns the most exclusive hotel in the city? That the person you wouldn't invite to family gatherings could buy and sell this entire family 100 times over? But the rooms." Aunt Diana sputtered. "Cancelled. On my orders. Just like this reunion is cancelled." I smiled, enjoying the way they flinched. The Imperial Grand does have standards after all. We don't host events for people who discriminate against service workers. "You can't do this," Victoria wailed. "All my friends are coming. This is humiliating." Humiliating. I took a step closer. Like being told you're not good enough for your own family? Like being excluded from every gathering because you embarrass them? Like having your life choices mocked and degraded for years. "Security," I called out, and James appeared with his team. "Please escort everyone out. If they resist, we have excellent documentation of their past behavior at other hotels. I'm sure the press would love to hear about it." "Sophia, please," my father tried, reaching for me. "We can talk about this. Like you talked to me when I needed support? When I was working 3 jobs to learn this business. When I was building something real while you were all playing pretend with your rented luxury and maxed out credit cards." The security team began herding my shell-shocked family toward the exits. I could hear Aunt Diana's protests, Victoria's sobs, my mother's pleas, but they meant nothing now. "Oh, and one more thing," I called after them. "The champagne you ordered? The one you thought was complimentary? I'll be sending the bill to each of you. With a service charge." After they were gone, Lily emerged from her hiding spot, camera in hand. "That was epic. But, are you okay?" I looked around the empty ballroom, remembering all the times I'd been told I wasn't good enough to be in places like this. "I'm perfect." Later that night, I changed back into my usual clothes and sat in my office, watching the sunset paint the city gold. My phone had hundreds of missed calls and messages from family members, ranging from angry to apologetic to manipulative. I deleted them all. The next morning, every major society column in the city ran the story: Hotel Empire owner reveals identity, cancels family reunion over discrimination. The articles detailed my journey from maid to magnate, celebrating the very path my family had ridiculed. My aunt's social circle was devastated. My father's law firm partners were shocked. Victoria's friends couldn't stop talking about it. The family that had worked so hard to maintain their image of success was exposed as frauds by the very person they'd rejected. 1 week later, I received a letter from my father. Inside was a formal invitation to join the family law firm as a partner. I sent back a housekeeping uniform with a note: "No thanks. I prefer owning buildings to renting offices in them." The Imperial Grand continued to thrive, its reputation for excellence growing stronger. I made it a policy to hire and promote people who, like me, wanted to learn the business from the ground up. Every new employee heard my story not as a tale of revenge, but as proof that true success doesn't come from family names or inherited privilege. Sometimes, late at night, I'd put on my old uniform and walk the halls of my hotel, remembering the girl who learned every aspect of the business while her family mocked her choices. She wasn't a failure. She was a founder. And now everyone knew it. The Morton family never held another reunion at a luxury hotel. They couldn't. They'd been blacklisted by every high-end property in the country. Apparently, other hotel owners appreciated my story. Some even framed it in their offices as a reminder that success doesn't always wear designer labels. As for me, I kept that spotlight in the ballroom. Sometimes during hotel tours, I'd tell new employees about the day I stood in it, wearing a housekeeping uniform, teaching my family that they'd been wrong about me all along. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about showing them, showing everyone, that true worth isn't about who you were born to be. It's about who you choose to become. And I chose to become something they never imagined. Successful on my own terms, in my own way, in an industry they thought was beneath them. The Imperial Grand stood as my testament. Not bad for a failure. The law office of Sterling and Associates oozed old money, from its mahogany panels to the oil paintings of stern-faced founders. Perfect setting for my parents' latest power play, the reading of grandfather's will. I adjusted my simple navy suit, watching Mom and Dad hold court among the other beneficiaries. As CEO and CFO of Mitchell Industries, they'd spent decades building their image as business royalty. "Sarah," Mom's smile didn't reach her eyes, "I'm surprised you came. Given your choices." My choices being my quiet departure from the family business 3 years ago to start my own investment firm. They didn't know I'd been systematically buying Mitchell Industries shares through shell companies ever since. "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, checking my encrypted phone. Another block of shares had just cleared. Perfect timing. Dad was already celebrating with his executive team. The company's future is secure now. No more worrying about outside influences. He met me. His unreliable daughter who'd questioned the company's outdated practices. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Shall we begin?" I took my seat, watching Mom's perfectly manicured fingers drum against the conference table. She'd spent months manipulating grandfather's final decisions, ensuring the company stayed under their proper leadership. To my son James and his wife Eleanor, the lawyer read, "I leave controlling interest in Mitchell Industries with full voting rights and executive authority." Dad's smile widened. Mom squeezed his hand triumphantly. "To my granddaughter Sarah," the lawyer continued, "in light of her departure from family traditions. I knew what was coming. Had planned for it. You get nothing," Dad declared, unable to contain himself. "The company needs strong, loyal leadership." My phone buzzed silently. The final share purchase had cleared. "Actually," I opened my briefcase calmly, "we should discuss the company's future." "There's nothing to discuss," Mom waved dismissively. "The will is clear." On cue, every phone in the room lit up with an urgent alert. "Emergency board meeting called by majority shareholder. Immediate attendance required." Dad's celebration froze. "What? I'm the majority shareholder now." "Are you?" I pulled out a stack of documents. "Perhaps we should check the ownership records." The lawyer's computer pinged with urgent updates. His face paled as he read the screen. This can't be right, he stammered. What? Dad demanded. Mitchell Industries' ownership structure has been updated. The lawyer swallowed hard. The majority shareholder is Summit Ventures. Mom's triumphant smile cracked. What's Summit Ventures? My investment firm, I said quietly, watching their faces. Which now owns 51% of Mitchell Industries. Impossible. Dad slammed his hand down. We controlled all the shares. Publicly controlled shares, I corrected. But I've been quietly buying through subsidiaries for 3 years. As of 10 minutes ago, I own the company. The room erupted in chaos. Dad's executive team frantically checked their phones, confirming the hostile takeover they'd never seen coming. You can't do this, Mom whispered. The will only covers grandfather's personal shares, I explained. Which, thanks to your maneuvering, are now worthless compared to my majority stake. The lawyer was still scrolling through documents, his face getting paler. She's right. Summit Ventures has been acquiring shares through multiple channels since you forced me out, I finished. Telling the board I was too inexperienced to lead. Dad's face had lost all color. Princess, if we'd known. Known what? I stood slowly. That while you were playing family politics, I was building an empire. That your inexperienced daughter now owns your company. The emergency board meeting alert flashed again. In 15 minutes, I would address the board as their new owner. This is a mistake, Mom tried, her voice shaking. We can fix this. Like you fixed grandfather's will? I raised an eyebrow. Oh, Mom. The only thing being fixed is this company's future. My phone buzzed with urgent messages from board members, all suddenly eager to connect with the daughter they'd dismissed. The board meeting starts soon. I gathered my things. I suggest you prepare yourselves. There are going to be some changes. Changes? Dad's voice cracked. Major ones, I confirmed. Starting with the executive team. As I walked toward the door, Mom called out desperately, We're family. I turned back one last time. Yes, we are. Family who tried to disinherit me. Remember that during tomorrow's shareholder vote. Behind me, I could hear their perfect world crumbling. The daughter they'd tried to shut out had just become their boss. My phone showed the latest stock alert. Mitchell Industries shares soaring as news of new leadership spread. The Mitchell Industries boardroom hummed with nervous energy as executives filed in, their faces a mix of shock and barely concealed panic. The mahogany table where Dad had ruled for decades now awaited its new leader. Your parents are attempting to contact their lawyers, my AI assistant noted through my earpiece. 17 firms have already declined, citing conflicts of interest with Summit Ventures. I smiled slightly, watching through the one-way glass as Dad's loyal team squirmed in their seats. And the stock? Up 32% since the ownership revelation. The market appears to approve of the hostile takeover. Mom and Dad arrived last, their usual confident strut replaced by uncertain steps. The golden nameplate reading James Mitchell Ho still gleamed at the head of the table. Not for long. The board meeting will begin in 2 minutes, my AI announced. Your parents' executive privileges have been revoked. I watched Dad try his security code, only to find his access denied. The company he'd thought he inherited now refused to recognize him. This is outrageous, Mom hissed to their remaining allies. She can't just walk in and... The doors opened. I entered wearing a power suit that cost more than their monthly salary. The room fell silent. Good morning. I took my place at the head of the table, Dad's nameplate conspicuously absent. Let's discuss the future of Mitchell Industries. Now wait just a minute. Dad started to rise. Sit down, Mr. Mitchell, I said coolly. Former employees don't have speaking privileges at board meetings. The color drained from his face as security collected his executive badge. As your new majority shareholder, I continued, activating the holographic displays, let's review the company's current state. Graphs and charts filled the air, showing years of stagnant growth and missed opportunities. While you were playing family politics, I highlighted their failures. Mitchell Industries fell behind every major competitor in digital transformation. Mom's perfectly manicured nails dug into her designer handbag. We maintained stable growth. You maintained mediocrity, I corrected, while rejecting every innovation proposal I brought to this board. The displays showed my rejected presentations from years past, all now proven successful in other companies. Your sister would never. Dad began. My sister, I cut in, just lost her inheritance too. Funny how that worked out. My phone buzzed with another update. Mitchell Industries subsidiary valuations increasing. Market responding positively to leadership change. The board will now vote on new executive appointments, I announced. Starting with the positions of CEO and CFO. Mom's face crumpled as her CFO access card stopped working mid-meeting. You can't just erase 30 years of leadership, Dad protested weakly. Watch me, I smiled, pulling up their performance reviews. 30 years of nepotism actually. Summit Ventures has higher standards. The board members, sensing the wind change, sat straighter. Several who'd dismissed my proposals years ago now nodded eagerly at my plans. Effective immediately, I continued, Mitchell Industries will begin aggressive modernization. Those unwilling to adapt should submit their resignations. This is still a family company. Mom tried one last time. No, I corrected, it's my company. The family part ended when you tried to disinherit me. The screens showed Summit Ventures' track record, a string of successful turnarounds that made Mitchell Industries look stagnant. Your father's retirement package, my AI whispered through the earpiece, has been significantly adjusted. Speaking of retirement, I addressed my shell-shocked parents. Let's discuss your golden parachutes. Dad's face fell as the numbers appeared. The generous exit package they'd arranged had been replaced by standard severance. But our contracts. Mom stammered. We're contingent on maintaining executive control, I finished. Summit Ventures isn't bound by family favors. The board watched in stunned silence as 30 years of carefully built power crumbled in minutes. Your office contents, I added, should be packed by end of day. Security will escort you out. Security. Dad's voice cracked. For us. Standard procedure for terminated executives, I smiled. Nothing personal. Just business, isn't that what you always taught me? My phone lit up with urgent messages from their country club friends, all suddenly eager to connect with Mitchell Industries' new owner. One last thing, I pulled up the company's new organization chart. About the family legacy you were so concerned about protecting. Their faces fell as they saw their names completely removed from company history. The Mitchell era is over, I declared. Welcome to Summit Industries. Mom's carefully maintained composure finally broke. You're destroying everything we built. No, I stood straightening my suit. I'm building something better. Something you were too afraid to imagine. The stock ticker caught my eye. Mitchell Industries shares up 45% now. The market clearly approved of the hostile daughter's takeover. This board meeting is adjourned, I announced. Security will show the former executives out. As they were led away, Dad turned back one last time. Princess, please. It's Ms. Mitchell in the boardroom, I corrected. Or better yet, Madam Chairman. Family titles don't matter here anymore. Behind them, through floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see their carefully built world restructuring itself around the daughter they tried to disinherit. And my takeover was just beginning. The inheritance they tried to steal had become their downfall. Poetic justice, served in the boardroom they thought they owned forever. The next morning I arrived at Mitchell Now Summit Industries headquarters precisely at 7 a.m. The security team, already briefed on the new protocols, nodded respectfully as I entered what had been my father's private elevator. Your parents attempted to access the building at 6 a.m., my AI reported. Their biometric credentials have been deactivated. I smiled, stepping into the CEO's office, my office now. The views of Manhattan seemed different from the other side of the desk. And their personal items? Packed and delivered to their residence. Your father's vintage car collection has been removed from the corporate garage. The morning headlines scrolled across my displays. Summit takeover. Daughter outmaneuvers parents in billion-dollar coup. Mitchell Industries stock soars under new leadership. Wall Street celebrates as tech visionary takes control. My phone buzzed, another desperate message from Mom. Darling, please. The country club board is meeting today. Our membership was tied to the CEO position. Ms. Mitchell, my AI interrupted, the global leadership team is ready for your first address. I activated the holographic conference system, preparing to address thousands of employees worldwide. The same employees who'd once known me only as the boss's daughter. One moment, I told the waiting executives. Family matters to address first. I opened a direct channel to my parents' home office, where they sat among the packed boxes of their corporate lives. Their faces appeared, still shocked by how quickly their empire had crumbled. Sarah, Dad began, his former CEO confidence gone. Princess, we can fix this. Fix what? I asked calmly. The company's stock is up 70% since yesterday. The market clearly prefers the hostile daughter to the nepotistic parents. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. The board of directors, our friends, have all pledged loyalty to Summit Industries, I finished. Amazing how quickly friendship follows power, isn't it? Their phones buzzed with social notifications, their elite circle already aligning with the company's new leader. The global address begins in 2 minutes, my AI reminded gently. Your sister called. Mom tried desperately. She's willing to come back from London. To the company she said was hopelessly old-fashioned last Christmas? I raised an eyebrow. Interesting timing. The screens showed Summit's first-day trading statistics, the market celebrating as 30 years of stagnant leadership ended. One final matter, I addressed them. Consider this a lesson in corporate governance. With a gesture, I activated the company's new ownership protocols. Their phones buzzed one last time. What's happening? Dad asked, staring at his screen. Your remaining shares are being transferred to the employee trust, I explained. Even minority ownership requires board approval now. Their faces fell as the last vestige of their corporate power disappeared. But the family legacy, Mom whispered. Ended when you tried to erase me from it, I replied. Consider it a hostile inheritance. The displays showed Summit's new organizational structure, innovative, dynamic, and completely free of family influence. The leadership team is waiting, my AI announced. Good luck with the country club, I said. I hear they're quite strict about maintaining certain financial standards. Their faces vanished as I turned to address my global team. Behind me, through panoramic windows, I could see their social world reorganizing itself around the daughter they tried to disinherit. The headlines kept flowing. Summit Industries announces major tech investment. Wall Street welcomes new Mitchell era. Hostile daughter becomes corporate queen. My phone showed one final message from Dad. Princess, we were wrong. So wrong. Please. Response. My AI asked. Tell him the inheritance lesson is over, I smiled. Some of us have an empire to build. The holographic system activated, ready to broadcast my vision to thousands. In their home office, I knew they'd be watching, finally understanding that their daughter hadn't just taken their company. She transformed it. Good morning, Summit Industries. I began my address. Let's discuss our future. Sometimes the best inheritance isn't what they try to take from you, it's what you build from their mistakes. And my corporate revolution was just beginning. The family coup had succeeded spectacularly. But then again, that's what happens when you try to disinherit someone who's already inherited the future. As Summit's stock price reached another record high, I couldn't help but smile. They tried to write me out of the will. So I'd written them out of their own company instead. The hostile daughter had become the corporate queen. And this was just the first board meeting of many. From my new office, the one Dad had thought would never be mine, I could see the future clearly. Not the future they'd planned, but the one I'd built. Showing them exactly what they lost by trying to control you. Welcome to Summit Industries, where family business is just business. And the future belongs to those bold enough to take it. The Morton family gathering buzzed with the usual tensions as mother prepared to distribute grandmother's jewelry collection. My sister Victoria perched triumphantly in the antique armchair, already wearing what she deemed the real pieces. And for Catherine, Mother announced with a slight grimace, the remaining pieces. Victoria smirked as I accepted the worn wooden box. At least they'll match your little repair shop. I ran my fingers over the tarnished items, sensing something the others had missed. After 15 years as a gemologist specializing in historical restoration, I'd developed an eye for what lay beneath the surface. The good pieces will look perfect at my gallery opening, Victoria preened, adjusting grandmother's sapphire necklace. Though you're welcome to visit them, Kathy. My phone buzzed discreetly. HRH's office confirms appointment. Urgent authentication requested. Speaking of the shop, Mother sighed, are you still playing with those old stones? Victoria's gallery is doing so well. I checked my watch. The royal representative would be arriving soon. Just small repairs, I replied mildly, examining a particularly interesting costume piece from my inherited box. The craftsmanship was unmistakable and centuries old. Costume jewelry, Victoria laughed, while I have the family treasures. Right on cue, Harrison James, representative of the Royal Collection Trust, entered our family sitting room. Your Majesty's personal jeweler has arrived. Mother's prized Cartier necklace slipped from her fingers. Victoria's perfectly glossed mouth fell open. Miss Catherine Morton? Harrison continued. About the historical pieces you identified. Catherine is our repair person, Mother stammered. There must be some mistake. No mistake, I smiled, opening my wooden box. Though you might want to take a closer look at those family treasures, Victoria. The real ones are right here. That's impossible, Victoria protested, clutching her sapphire necklace. These are the valuable pieces. Mother had them appraised. By the family jeweler, I noted, carefully lifting a tarnished brooch from my box. Who, like everyone else, saw what they expected to see. Harrison stepped closer, his white-gloved hands trembling slightly. Is that the lost Edinburgh brooch? I confirmed. Commissioned in 1847, thought destroyed in the Windsor Fire of 1928. Except grandmother somehow had it all along. Mother's face went pale. But those are costume pieces. Are they? I asked, pulling out another item, a seemingly modest necklace. Like this glass pendant that happens to be the missing Romanov sunrise? The one art historians have been searching for since the Russian Revolution. Victoria's hands flew to her throat, suddenly unsure about her precious sapphires. Your grandmother, Harrison said carefully, how did she? Was the assistant to the royal jeweler during World War II, I finished. When the crown jewels were being hidden from potential invasion. Seems she kept a few secrets. My phone buzzed again. HM requests immediate private viewing of authenticated pieces. But we had Mother's pieces appraised, Victoria insisted, her voice rising. They're worth millions. They're worth exactly what you paid for them, I replied. Quality reproductions. Beautiful ones, actually. Grandmother was clever. She kept the replicas polished and prominent, while the real treasures stayed hidden in plain sight, looking like costume jewelry. Harrison was already making calls. The Windsor collection curator is on his way. The Queen's secretary requests a full authentication, I nodded. Already prepared. Including providence tracing these pieces through grandmother's service during the war. Mother sank into her chair. All these years. You saw what you wanted to see, I said gently. Like when you dismissed my interest in historical restoration as playing with old jewelry, while praising Victoria's modern gallery. Victoria was frantically Googling on her phone, her face growing paler as she found images matching the costume pieces in my box. The Edinburgh brooch, it's worth more than your gallery, I confirmed. Much more. And that's just one piece. Harrison cleared his throat. Ms. Morton, about your appointment as Royal Collection Consultant. Mother's teacup clattered against its saucer. Royal. Someone needs to authenticate and restore the pieces properly, I explained, carefully rewrapping the brooch. Grandmother left notes suggesting there might be more hidden treasures in other collections. Victoria stared at her precious sapphire necklace with new uncertainty. Then these are excellent reproductions, I assured her. Worth thousands, actually. Just not millions. And definitely not royal heritage pieces. My phone lit up with another message. Buckingham Palace security team en route for secure transport of historical pieces. All those years of lectures about my little repair shop, I mused, watching Mother's face as she processed the truth. while I was becoming one of the world's top experts in historical jewelry authentication. Harrison was still making calls. The media embargo is in place, but the announcement of the discovered pieces will be major news. The Queen, Mother whispered, has already requested a private consultation, I confirmed. Apparently, finding lost royal jewelry gets one an audience. Victoria set down her phone, where headlines about the missing Edinburgh brooch's estimated value had finally loaded. Catherine, don't worry, I smiled, closing my wooden box of treasures. You can still visit the pieces, once they're installed in their new home at the Tower of London. 1 week later, I stood in the private authentication room at Buckingham Palace, carefully examining pieces under specialized lighting while Victoria's breaking news interview played silently on a nearby screen. Local gallery owner's sister makes shocking royal discovery, scrolled across the bottom as my sister attempted to align herself with my sudden prominence. The Romanov sunrise authentication is complete, I announced to the waiting curators. The match is definitive. This is the piece that disappeared in 1918. My phone buzzed with another text from Mother. Darling, about that interview with the Times. I smiled, remembering her words at the inheritance reading. At least Victoria knows how to present herself properly. Ms. Morton, the Royal Collection curator approached. Her Majesty would like your thoughts on several other pieces with questionable provenance. The security feed showed more media gathering outside the palace gates. The discovery of lost royal jewels by a simple repair shop owner had captured global imagination. Another message from your sister, my assistant whispered. Her gallery is offering to host an exhibition of the reproductions. Declined, I replied, examining another piece through my loupe. The Tower of London has priority. The screens displayed breaking news. Catherine Morton appointed Royal Collection consultant. Expert gemologist uncovers historical treasure. Your mother called again, my assistant added. Something about the country club's Heritage Society. Tell her the palace schedule is quite full, I murmured, identifying another significant piece. Though she's welcome to visit the public exhibition, once she clears security screening. Victoria's interview continued silently. Of course, I always knew my sister had a special gift. Quite different from her playing with old jewelry comments last month. My phone lit up with a message from the Queen's private secretary. HM requests your presence for afternoon tea. Bring the Edinburgh brooch documentation. The value assessment is complete, my assistant reported. The Edinburgh brooch alone exceeds the worth of Victoria's entire gallery collection. On the screens, Victoria was still trying to capitalize on her connection, as someone with an eye for fine jewelry, conveniently forgetting how she dismissed the real treasures as costume pieces. Ms. Morton, the royal archivist approached. We found your grandmother's wartime records. Her position gave her access to the entire royal collection during evacuation, I nodded, examining another piece. While everyone was focused on the obvious treasures, she protected the historically significant pieces by making them seem worthless. My phone buzzed with another family message, this time from a cousin who'd mocked my little repair shop at last year's Christmas dinner. Darling, about that family tiara I mentioned. The Queen's schedule is confirmed, my assistant announced. She'd like your expertise on the Victorian collection tomorrow. I thought back to Mother's constant comparisons. Victoria knows the right people. Now her repair shop daughter was having tea with Her Majesty. Your sister's gallery sent over a proposal, my assistant continued. They're suggesting a joint exhibition. Forward it to the Tower of London, I replied. They can add it to their rejection file. The news screens switched to heritage experts discussing my discoveries. Morton's expertise in historical authentication has revolutionized our understanding of royal jewelry collections. Mother's text appeared. Darling, the Ladies' Historical Society would love a presentation. Tell her I'm busy, I said, identifying another significant piece. The Queen takes priority over country club presentations. Victoria's interview was wrapping up, her attempts to share my spotlight growing more desperate. As I always told my sister, Ms. Morton, the Royal Collection curator, interrupted my thoughts. The Windsor collection needs immediate authentication. Her Majesty suggests you might find more surprises. I carefully packed my tools, watching Victoria on screen claiming she'd always supported my career choice. The same career she'd called a waste of potential just weeks ago. My phone displayed another headline: Morton Discoveries Rewrite Royal Jewelry History. Expert gemologist uncovers centuries of secrets. Your mother left another message, my assistant said, about the family photographs with the jewelry. Remind her that all official images now require palace approval, I replied. And that claiming connection to royal artifacts without authorization is problematic. The security feed showed Victoria's gallery, where she'd hastily assembled a royal connection exhibition featuring photographs of herself wearing what she now knew were reproductions. The Queen's private secretary called, my assistant added. They're discussing a permanent position. I smiled, remembering Mother's words. At least Victoria has a real career. Now her real career involved desperately trying to associate with her sister's expertise, while I prepared for another royal consultation. One more thing, my assistant said as we headed to the Windsor collection. Your sister's gallery asked about borrowing the Edinburgh brooch for their heritage event. Tell her she's welcome to borrow the reproduction, I replied. The original will be rather busy in the Tower of London, next to the crown jewels. 3 months later, I stood in the Tower of London's newly renovated Royal Jewels Exhibition Hall, watching the final preparations for the grand opening. The Edinburgh brooch gleamed in its custom display case, surrounded by the other historical pieces I'd authenticated. Her Majesty is particularly pleased with the Romanov sunrise restoration, the royal curator commented, adjusting his white gloves. Though your sister's gallery opening seems to have scheduled their event for the same evening. I smiled, remembering Victoria's desperate attempts to compete with the royal exhibition. Her Heritage Connection show featured enlarged photos of her wearing what she now knew were reproductions. Ms. Morton, my assistant approached. The Queen's office confirmed your appointment as Royal Collection Chief Authenticator. They're announcing it at tonight's ceremony. My phone buzzed with another text from Mother. Darling, about the Women's Club presentation on family heirlooms. Still busy with actual royal heirlooms, I murmured, examining the Romanov Sunrise's new display. The news screens throughout the exhibition showed continuous coverage. Morton Authentication revolutionizes royal collection. Expert reveals centuries of hidden treasures. Your sister's latest interview is trending, my assistant noted. She's claiming she always knew the pieces were special, despite calling them costume jewelry? I raised an eyebrow, watching the security team prepare for tonight's royal visit. Victoria's face filled the screens, as someone with intimate knowledge of historical jewelry. Quite different from her, at least they'll match your little repair shop comments at the inheritance reading. My phone displayed another palace notification. HM requests private viewing before ceremony. Bring grandmother's wartime documentation. The guest list for tonight's ceremony is finalized, my assistant reported. Your mother's request for additional family tickets has been processed according to standard security protocols, I finished, watching another of Victoria's interviews play silently on the screens. The Queen's security team isn't swayed by country club connections. My phone lit up with a message from Mother. Darling, I've had the family photographs with the jewelry professionally framed. Remind her about the palace guidelines on claiming connections to royal artifacts, I said, adjusting the lighting on the Edinburgh brooch display. The exhibition screen switched to historical footage. World War II Royal Collection. The Hidden Story, featuring photographs of my grandmother whose costume jewelry had protected priceless artifacts for decades. Your sister's gallery sent over their catalog, my assistant mentioned. They're featuring reproductions as sister collection to the royal exhibits. Forward it to the palace legal team, I replied. They've become quite interested in unauthorized royal associations lately. Victoria's face appeared on the news again. Of course, growing up surrounded by such historical pieces. Conveniently forgetting how she'd claimed all the valuable pieces for herself. Ms. Morton, the royal curator approached. Her Majesty suggests you might want to examine the Cambridge collection next. There are several pieces with interesting histories. I thought back to Mother's constant comparisons. Victoria understands value. Now her repair shop daughter was authenticating the Queen's personal collection. My phone buzzed with another family message, this time from an aunt who'd dismissed my career choice. Sweetie, about that family sapphire bracelet. The Queen's schedule is confirmed for next week, my assistant announced. She'd like your thoughts on several historic pieces in her private collection. The security feed showed Victoria's gallery, where she'd arranged her reproduction pieces to mirror the royal exhibition's layout. The sign outside read, Morton Family Heritage Collection. Technically true, but deliberately misleading. Your mother's women's club called again, my assistant said. They're planning a Royal Connections luncheon. Tell them the Tower of London gift shop has lovely postcards, I replied, making final adjustments to the Romanov Sunrise display. The screens showed more coverage. Morton authentication transforms understanding of royal jewelry history. Expert gemologist appointed to royal household. Mother's latest text appeared. The country club is hosting a royal theme gala. How fitting, I murmured, considering they're using reproductions to imitate the real treasures. Rather like their social connections. Victoria's interview continued silently, as the sister of the Royal Collection Authenticator. Her new favorite title replacing successful gallery owner. Ms. Morton, the royal security chief approached. Her Majesty has arrived for the private viewing. I gathered my authentication tools, watching Victoria on screen still trying to claim proximity to royal status. The same status she'd mocked when it came in a worn wooden box. The Anderson family's monthly dinner filled their modernist dining room with tension thicker than the steam rising from Mother's infamous organic soup. The table, a sleek masterpiece of glass and steel, reflected the chandelier's cold light, much like the cold stares I'd grown accustomed to over the years. Still spending all your time in that basement lab? Dad asked, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses. As the head of Quantum Dynamics Corporation, he believed real science happened in corporate laboratories, not in what he called my hobby workspace. I stirred my soup slowly, watching the vegetables swirl. My phone buzzed silently in my pocket. Another update from my research team. The basement has state-of-the-art equipment, I replied quietly. My sister Victoria snorted, her Yale Medical School ring catching the light as she reached for her wine. State-of-the-art? That ancient electron microscope Dad gave you as a starter gift. The one I replaced 2 years ago, I murmured, but nobody heard. They never did. Mother set down her spoon with surgical precision. Her background in neurosurgery meant everything had to be exact, measured, perfect. Sophia darling, you're 31. Victoria was running her own research department at your age. In a real laboratory, Victoria added, not some makeshift setup in a basement. I checked my phone discreetly. The final results had come in. After 8 years of work, we'd done it. The confirmation from 3 independent laboratories sat in my inbox, waiting to change everything. The equipment doesn't matter, Dad continued, warming to his favorite topic, my failures. It's the research itself. Quantum cellular regeneration? It's science fiction. The board laughed when I mentioned it. My fingers tightened around my spoon. The board had laughed because he'd deliberately misrepresented my work, calling it cellular magic tricks, instead of explaining the breakthrough in quantum biological interfaces. The NIH grant committee didn't laugh, I said quietly. Not that they knew about the private grant I'd received, the one that had funded my real research. Victoria rolled her eyes. Oh yes, your tiny grant. Remind me, how much was it? Barely enough for a proper centrifuge. Mother dabbed her lips with her napkin. We're just concerned, dear. You've spent 8 years on this project. Maybe it's time to consider a real position. Your father's company has excellent entry-level research positions. My phone buzzed again. The Stockholm Committee's preliminary email had arrived. I took a slow sip of water, remembering all the nights I'd spent perfecting the quantum resonance patterns while they assumed I was playing with microscopes. Actually, I started, but Dad cut me off. No more excuses, Sophia. This ends now. Either join the real scientific community or admit you've wasted your doctorate on impossible theories. The TV in the adjacent living room, always on during dinner to monitor stock prices, suddenly changed programs. The news anchor's voice carried clearly into the dining room. Breaking news from the scientific community, the anchor announced. In a shocking announcement, the Nobel Committee has revealed this year's winner in physics. Must be Richardson, Dad said, reaching for his wine. His quantum gravity work is revolutionary. I stood slowly, straightening my lab coat, the one they'd mocked for being unnecessarily formal in my basement playground. The youngest Nobel laureate in history, the anchor continued, Dr. Sophia Anders. The sound of Mother's wine glass shattering against the floor punctuated the moment perfectly. The room froze as the TV anchor's voice filled every corner. Multiple wine glasses now decorated the floor with their shattered remains as both Victoria and Dad lost their grip simultaneously. Dr. Sophia Anderson's groundbreaking work in quantum cellular regeneration has revolutionized our understanding of biological systems, the anchor continued. Her discovery of quantum biological interfaces has been hailed as the most significant breakthrough in medical science since the discovery of DNA. I pressed a button on my phone, and the dining room's hidden screens descended from the ceiling, a feature they'd never noticed during their countless lectures about my waste of resources. Each screen lit up with different aspects of my research: quantum matrices, cellular regeneration patterns, and live feeds from laboratories worldwide using my protocols. The Nobel Committee's decision was unanimous, the broadcast continued. The implications of Dr. Anderson's work extend beyond physics into medicine, potentially offering cures for previously untreatable conditions. Impossible, Victoria whispered, her medical degree suddenly feeling inadequate. You work in a basement. A basement? I smiled, activating another screen. You mean the quantum research facility funded by a $2.3 billion private grant? The one housing the world's most advanced quantum biological interface system. Dad's face turned ashen as footage of my basement lab appeared, a sprawling underground complex filled with technology even his corporate empire couldn't match. But your NIH grant was only... Mother stammered. A cover, I finished. While you were mocking my tiny grant, the World Science Foundation was funding the largest private research initiative in history. That ancient electron microscope you laughed at? It's now in the Smithsonian, recognized as the device that launched the quantum biological revolution. The screens filled with images of cellular regeneration in action, damaged tissues rebuilding themselves using quantum resonance patterns. Victoria's medical journals lay forgotten as she watched decades of conventional wisdom crumble before her eyes. Those impossible theories? I continued, pulling up more data. They're now the foundation of 17 new medical treatments. The FDA fast-tracked approval after seeing the results. Every major hospital is scrambling to install our quantum interface systems. My phone buzzed continuously as congratulatory messages poured in. The President. The UN Secretary General. Every major research institution worldwide. $3.8 million, I said quietly. What? Dad's voice cracked. The Nobel Prize money. Though that's nothing compared to the patent values. Would you like to know what your board is offering for just one license? The TV switched to financial news. Quantum Dynamics Corporation's stock plunged 40% as investors rushed to back Dr. Anderson's independent research facility. Sources say major pharmaceutical companies are engaging in a bidding war for licensing rights. Victoria stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. You'll destroy Dad's company. No, I corrected her. I'm revolutionizing medicine. The question is whether quantum dynamics wants to be part of that revolution, or watch from the sidelines as their technology becomes obsolete. The screens now showed global stock tickers, all reacting to my Nobel announcement. My research facility's value had doubled in the past hour alone. The Stockholm ceremony is next week, I said, gathering my things. I'd invite you, but... I smiled, remembering all their mockery. I wouldn't want to waste your time with my hobby. As I turned to leave, Dad finally found his voice. Sophia, wait, we didn't know. Exactly, I paused at the door. You didn't know because you didn't want to know. Too busy laughing at the daughter in the basement to notice she was changing the world. The Nobel Committee's official announcement began playing on every screen, drowning out their attempts to respond. I left them sitting amid their shattered wine glasses and shattered assumptions, their daughter's wasteful research, now worth more than their entire family fortune. 1 week after the Nobel announcement, I stood at the podium in Stockholm's concert hall, the prestigious Nobel medal gleaming against my midnight blue gown. The same gown Mother had called unnecessarily formal for a basement scientist, when she'd seen it in my closet last month. The grand hall was packed with the world's scientific elite, CEOs of major pharmaceutical companies, and government officials from 30 nations. In the back row, not the VIP section they'd expected, sat my family, their expressions a mix of awe and devastation. Quantum cellular regeneration wasn't just a theory. I began my acceptance speech, my voice carrying through the perfect acoustics. It was a bridge between two worlds we thought could never meet. The quantum realm doesn't just influence our reality, it is our reality, down to our very cells. The massive screens behind me displayed real-time demonstrations from hospitals worldwide. Severed nerve endings reconnecting through quantum entanglement. Damaged organs rebuilding themselves using quantum-guided cellular matrices. Cancer cells being reprogrammed at the quantum level. 3 days ago, I continued, the first human patient was cured of stage 4 pancreatic cancer using our quantum interface protocol. Yesterday, a paralyzed veteran regained full mobility through quantum neural regeneration. This morning, a child born blind experienced vision for the first time through quantum optical reconstruction. Victoria shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Her medical journal had rejected my paper 2 years ago, calling it fantasy research. Now that same journal's latest issue featured my work on its cover, heralding the dawn of quantum medicine. But perhaps the most significant breakthrough isn't scientific at all, I said, my gaze finding Dad's. It's the reminder that innovation doesn't require corporate backing or institutional approval. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries happen in a basement, funded by belief when no one else would listen. The screens shifted to show my basement lab, all 50,000 square feet of it, built deep beneath the city while my family assumed I was playing with microscopes. The quantum interface chambers, the molecular reconstruction units, the artificial intelligence systems that had helped crack the code between quantum states and biological processes. The World Science Foundation saw potential where others saw impossibility. I acknowledged the organization's directors in the front row. Their $2.3 billion grant didn't just fund research. It funded a revolution in human health. And today that revolution belongs to everyone. I gestured and the screens displayed our new open-source initiative. Every protocol, every discovery, every breakthrough will be freely available to research institutions worldwide. The patents will be used only to prevent commercialization, not to restrict access. Quantum healing isn't a product to be sold. It's a fundamental human right. The announcement sent ripples through the audience. Pharmaceutical executives frantically typed on their phones as their stock prices began to plummet. Dad's company's shares, already down 60% since the Nobel announcement, dropped another 15% in real time. To those who called this research wasteful, I continued, my voice steady, I offer not criticism but an invitation. Join us. The Quantum Health Initiative launches today with $50 billion in international funding. Our goal is to have quantum healing centers in every major hospital within 5 years. Mother's hand trembled as she reached for her phone, likely seeing the notifications about her hospital board's emergency meeting. They'd rejected my offer to install a quantum interface system last year. Now they'd be competing with every other medical center for limited spots in the first implementation wave. The future of medicine isn't in pills or procedures, I declared, approaching my conclusion. It's an understanding that our bodies are quantum systems capable of self-repair, self-regulation, and self-renewal. We simply needed to learn their language. The screens showed a final series of images. Children walking out of wheelchairs, cancer patients watching their tumors disappear in real time, burn victims experiencing instant tissue regeneration. 8 years of work, compressed into a symphony of healing that left the audience breathless. And so, I smiled, touching the Nobel medal, to every researcher working in a basement, every scientist told their dreams are impossible, every innovator pushed to the margins. This moment is for you. Because sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come from the places others mock, and the most powerful discoveries emerge from the spaces between what we know and what we dare to imagine. The standing ovation lasted 15 minutes. Through it all, my family remained seated, their world reconstructing itself as dramatically as the cells in our quantum chambers. Their phones buzzed continuously, board members resigning, investors pulling out, partners canceling contracts. Later at the Nobel banquet they approached my table, the one at the center of the room surrounded by world leaders and scientific luminaries. Sophia, Dad began, his voice lacking its usual authority, we need to talk about the company. Quantum dynamics? I sipped my champagne. You mean the company that's now worth less than my first research grant? The one that called quantum cellular regeneration scientific fantasy in their shareholder report. We can explain, Victoria started, but I held up my hand. No need. Your explanations are as outdated as your medical textbooks. I gestured to the quantum tablet in front of me, displaying real-time healing statistics from around the world. But I meant what I said about an invitation. Mother leaned forward eagerly. You'll help save the company? No, I corrected her. I'm offering you the chance to help save lives. The Quantum Health Initiative needs experienced researchers, administrators, and medical professionals. You can join as entry-level team members, learn the technology from the ground up, and maybe, if you prove yourselves, earn positions of responsibility. Entry-level. Dad's face flushed. I built a billion-dollar company. And I rebuilt the foundations of medical science, I replied calmly. Which matters more? Victoria sat heavily in an empty chair. All those times we mocked your work. Taught me invaluable lessons about persistence, I finished. The basement you ridiculed became the birthplace of a medical revolution. The research you dismissed will save millions of lives. The daughter you underestimated just redefined what's possible. I stood, preparing to join the Nobel Committee for official photographs. You have until tomorrow to decide. Join us as learners, humbled and ready to learn, or watch from the sidelines as your medical empire becomes as obsolete as bloodletting. And the monthly family dinners? Mother asked quietly. We'll continue, I smiled. But now there'll be progress reports where you'll present your work to me for approval. Consider it poetic justice, served with a side of quantum physics. As I walked away, leaving them amid their shattered presumptions and crumbling empires, I touched the Nobel medal again. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't proving others wrong. It's proving yourself right so magnificently that their doubts become their downfall. The quantum future awaited, and I had healing to do, both cellular and familial. Though only one of those was guaranteed to succeed.